Good evening. This is Spectrum Voices Conversation. Here every Sunday 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States. This is Sunday the 10th of March. Time is flying in. So good evening everybody. So how is everyone?
Personally, I'm tickety-boo, mate. I had a bit of sleep. I'm flown back, and back in Scotland, and it's lovely to feel cool rain on my face.
That must be quite a difference for you. I mean, how long was that?
I was away about 2 months, yeah, um, and I think there's been some fierce weather around the countryside where I'm here in the borders. Some real big trees that I've known for a long time have succumbed while I've been away. Um, yeah, it's been dramatic weather, I think, while I've been away.
Yeah, it was quite stormy. I mean, there was a couple of storms, but they start to name now. A number of months ago. I mean, it's strange that because it's actually, until you mentioned that, I actually forgot all about them. Maybe because I wasn't personally affected as such, but it was bad weather all over Britain. I mean, the news reports, I don't generally watch the news, but my dad does. It had everybody was all going to die. It's this sort of kind of, these, they do it in the summer as well when it's too hot, but we're all going to die because of the bad weather's going to get us. It's quite surreal.
As far as the meeting goes, there's been a few activities. I
Yep.
think I think the recording that we've just come off was interesting. It went. I think after the recording, when we pressed stop, I think you and I had very similar reactions. As wow, that went in directions I wasn't expecting it to go in, and that was an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to editing that up.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, that's what we do it for. It's like we start a conversation and it just goes because there's a few of us in the virtual room. It's like different perspectives, different views, and it always goes somewhere interesting. So I did really enjoy it. I hope the others did as well. Liz and Morris.
I was on the forward edge of my interpreting process much of the time. Got through. I could feel my mind running at some points.
So what's the update, Julian, and from your side in terms of things happening in the background? Because there has been one or two things you want to share. Did you hear me there, Julian? Just checking the sound. Testing, testing.
Yeah, sorry. I think with that, with what we've just been discussing, the fourth program in the um, what it what a seat at the table means. We started off with the first two, and I've edited them up, and that was what it means for autistic people. And the last one we did, the fourth one, it went in all kinds of directions. I think it's an interesting bookend to that as a fourth in the group of four. So I'm going to edit them all up and put them out all there together as a kind of 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where we got in this discussion, and then see where it goes from there. Maybe start to introduce the professionals now. And we have offers from the professionals, and we've got some material from Ramon to work out from a slightly different point of view, how it looks from their point of view, and how they describe it intellectually. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that being finished. I did communicate with quite a few autism professionals, and I pointed out what we've been doing recently. I made them very aware that there was going to be that series. So they're kind of informed that we're very much discussing what it means and to have a seat at the table, and they're very much aware from the wording that we discussed at our Tuesday meeting of what I put out. How we're standing at the moment on our interpretations. It seems that we've kind of put two different things out there, and that is that if we do share anything as a group, and I take from the last meeting how we were saying actually we're very varied in our ideas. The two concepts I think we might have as a group are that we're looking for equity in communication, and that we're looking for a seat at the table. And they're the two things that I've wanted to examine, to build upon as where we stand. I was very aware of what Liz said in one of our recent broadcasts about having a group purpose in any way. And I want to suggest that we put those two concepts as our group purpose and make that something maybe that we could call Spectrum Voices, or one of the things that we're doing. Does that make sense to anybody?
Do you mean sort of making it our stated mission to advocate as a group for a meaningful seat at the table?
That sounds like a very elegant way of my trying to ramble. Yeah, I think you've distilled it for me.
Cool. Okay, I'm just glad I've understood it. Yeah, no, I think that's a good aim. Yeah, I'm definitely behind that.
I saw it as a double barrel. I saw it as the equity and communication as well. I saw it. I think they don't work unless we've got both things together. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
So, I was looking at Jess, and so that caught me on the hop.
You can hop for a bit, and I'll speak and give you a break if you like. I'll just read out what Justin said.
Say the second thing again. That is
right. I think my feeling is that there's two aims that we might be able to have as a group in common, and whatever we call that group or however we define it is up to us later. But the basic tenets are equity and communication, which means we get a real way of expressing ourselves that is appropriate for us. And I think the audio model is an example of that, or or people who use alternative spelling or alternative ways of communication is another example of that. So
Right,
it's a
right.
general sense that autistic people need the opportunity to communicate on their own terms and
Right,
in ways
right.
that make us comfortable, like
Yeah,
particularly for me, it's the audio model, and for particularly me, it's good sound quality, because I can't be at their meetings when the sound quality is so bad because it disables me. Things like this. So equity in communication can cover those kind of items. It's kind of, ideal need, but it also links into the whole point in. Well, that's interesting the way you're saying that, Justin. You saying it equity and communication. Well, it kind of means that as well, but it's the particular phrase is equity in communication, meaning we get the opportunity to communicate as best as we can on a level playing field. And then the other item is to advocate for a meaningful, meaningful is a terrible term, a seat at the table.
yeah.
And we're gradually sort of defining what a seat at the table is in our discussions and changing it. I'm changing my mind on it from when I'm listening to you guys, what it means.
My context failure there listening is I was listening out for two new things. Now that's one new thing, and our already existing thing makes the two. So at the first listening, the already existing the equity and communication will have.
Oh, I see. That was already a given for you.
It was streamed past me as
that's what we'll be doing anyway.
The self-description we've already got and not registered as being one of the two things. So that's what needed making a specific of before I grasped it.
Yeah, no, I perfectly get that. No, I'm not. I'm actually saying I'm agreeing with you there, Justin. It's not, sorry for misunderstanding. I mean, it is equity in communication, but it's also equity and communication. It's kind of like they're not the same thing, but they're both equally important. But the one phrase I'm going with is equity in communication. Yeah. So I think we're on the same page there. To use the bullshit speak that they use in offices. All of us, I think. I haven't heard what Liz. What's your feeling on that? Did I mishear?
Sorry, feeling on what? About the equity and communication, or
equity and communication, and the other one as a group, as a thing. You're really up for that, yeah?
Yeah. The two aims, I think, I'm doing.
They seem linked. They seem linked, and not adding any more stuff on it so that we can just. Do you see what? It's just make it as close as we can about something that's really tight.
Yeah, I think. So I think there's times when the communication thing will be more relevant to situations than the seat at the table thing. I think they need to be separate, or at least separable, to be the priority in in any given situation. But yeah, I'm generally behind. Yeah, I think those are two good.
I think you point out a very important thing there. I think the way I interpret what you've just said is that the two concepts are important separately and together.
I was just thinking about
because equity in communication is the first thing, isn't it? That is the first key. I would say that was how always has been the priority there. Yeah. I think the equity in communication comes first in this, like Morris was kind of intimating.
Yeah, I mean, I see them as two separate threads really two separate activities that may sort of touch occasionally. I don't think they're interwoven with each other. I'm just thinking about the work with
Oh,
spellers.
okay.
The equity and communication thing there is applicable in a far wider range of scenarios and applications in their lives than the seat at the table thing.
I
So
agree. I completely agree.
I'm coming at it from a different angle, perhaps.
Yeah, but that's kind of what makes it feel like that should be our priority and our main focus over the other one.
Mm.
That's what I feel anyway.
Mm.
If I was to swing it towards which had the priority, I'd definitely put it equity and communication, because it's possibly it's an extreme example or a more obvious example when it's in the spellers and when it's in people who don't use conventional speech, but it's also as important when you're somebody like myself or Morris, who sound as though we have all of the language sometimes, but we still get misunderstood because of the way we express it. The kind of old man syndrome. So I think it matters to everybody in the autistic community. There's something we share in it, you know. Anyway, I'm possibly way off the point for a meeting. Right. So what have I been doing? I've made lots of appointments. If you look at the calendar we share, Lindsay's come back to us with a time in April. We've got one booked in with a guy introduced by Andrew Swartfigger, the man who's trying to promote registration of ABA in this country. He's a communications guy for the organisation, and he's introduced us to another one of the directors of the board that are the UK Autism Association set up, their society, whatever it's called. I should really learn the terms. And his name is Nathan Bunyan. And he's on the board of directors as a student member and as a neurodivergent member of the board. So he himself is Kent University, qualifying for a qualification in the use of ABA. And if you look up his internet, just put his name into the internet, you come up with his statement to the ABA Society, of UK ABA Society board for membership, kind of like how he sees the world. So he's going to have a first practice discussion with me on the 18th of March on a Monday, and then he's going to join the whole group the following Sunday for a group discussion with him. That's really the big news at the moment. There's another couple of things in our diaries, meetings that people are invited to, which are we've got one for Jim. Jim knows autism, to talk about that, and I've sent an email around about that. But yeah, I'm quite happy if there's any other business to move on.
Did you say you were speaking to Nathan Trevitt? Was that the name?
Oh yeah, that's an idea I had. Okay, so we did an introduction to Nath. In fact, I got his name wrong. It isn't Nathan. Nath is not short for anything. It's just Nath Trevitt, and it's a definite ETLT at the end. He sent me a link to an 3, and he's got a couple of songs, and he suggested he'd like to play them on the radio some way. So he came along and we spoke before. I then played the song, and then we spoke after, and it was really rather good. It was a nice thing. It was a nice piece of music to listen to, and it was entirely in Welsh. But even not understanding Welsh, I could relate to the sound and the melody of his voice and how the sound's made and the music. So it was really pleasant. You could hear the emotions that he was putting out really felt as though they were in tune with the music. So it's felt like an honest interpretation, even in the language I didn't understand, a bit like listening to Bulgarian, you know? Via Bulgaris, I listen to Bulgarian choral music sometimes. So I thought, I've made this little segment, and we could, every now and again, if somebody put some interest of putting something out on the radio, we would just add it as a little extra at the end of one of these meetings. So edit it up and make it like an extra you get on a video or something like that. You know, we say goodnight, we finish our meeting, and if people stay on the line, they hear a 5-minute little thing. And this guy's music, his own music, was a nice thing to do. So I thought we'd do that occasionally.
Seems a very good idea. I mean, what I've been doing on Facebook has been sharing. One particular one that stands out is maybe autism's my superpower, and generally it's a young person doing a song and playing instruments. So you know, to share stuff like that is always a good thing. And anyway, we're going to do it, which is great. Something a bit different.
Yeah, whenever it come along, I thought we should do it. Anyway, I'll do it as a practice one with this one, and then see what you guys think about it, and see if people, you know, we can then put a few words after it saying, if you want to do this 10-minute or 5-minute slot, you know, even if it's, whether it's a poem or whether it's a piece of music or whether it's a manifesto or something they want to get off their chest, they could just have a vox pop, and we'll just stick it in after the live.
Yeah, I'm happy with that one.
Okay, I'll take that as unanimous support just from you.
Yeah. So obviously it's just me saying. I'm not saying that others will have their thoughts on it, which is fine. So I'll mute and let others speak.
Slot, new type of slot. That's good.
Yeah, well, just kind of like we just play it straight after this on the podcast.
Yeah,
because Harry cuts a load out and then just stick a bit on the end.
And what go? Diversify, yes.
Yeah. It opens up opportunities to people to make up what they want to put in that slot, and then eventually they might be people who then expand their own slots out. You know.
Yes. Yeah. More involvement and ways to be included.
Yeah, like a step. You know, like a small bite step, which might mean that they get encouraged to do a bit more later, and you never know where it's going to go. I mean, people could just come and talk about trains, and I would listen to it. Anyway, I give way. Shall we move on, Harry?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. This is Spectrum Voices Conversation, here every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States time difference. This is Sunday, the 10th of March 2024, and this is the part where we go through some of the Facebook posts that have been shared on our Facebook page. And the first one, which ties in with what today is from Autism NI, who are a charity organisation from Northern Ireland, and they say that they are Northern Ireland's main autistic charity and supports over 35,000 autistic people. autismni.org. And basically what they've shared is a happy Mother's Day to all amazing mums, and we hope you have a great day with all your loved ones. So it's just to mark today in the UK as Mother's Day. I don't know if this is the same as elsewhere, but it's Mother's Day here. So just thought I'd put that, so just to mark the occasion, as well as marking to all the people out there, their mothers.
It's interesting that around the world they do have Mother's Days in lots of different places, different culture at different times of the year.
Yeah, I think the US is different as well. Or am I wrong?
I think you're right, and I think it's different in New Zealand and Australia.
All right. Well, we'll certainly share when it comes round to obviously their turn, because we obviously share from all over the world as much as we can. It's always good to share those events, those occasions. The next one is from Pandas Online. And they promote, it's an author who promotes acceptance of neurodivergency and support. pandasonline.org. And there's a few things to share here. On the picture itself, it's from Neurobears, and it's a quote saying, "I really like that it was made by autistic people because nothing more annoying than getting talked at by at autism by neurotypical people." I think I've kind of read this a bit backwards, but basically what it's what the explanation is on this is there's real value in learning from those who live the experience. Neurobears is proud to be an autistic-led initiative offering perspectives that resonate authentically with the community. It's about providing insights that are not just informative but also relatable and rooted in real experiences. And that quote is based on that.
If you want, you can just read that bit out again and I'll cut it in.
Yeah, okay. The quote says from Eurobears, it is, "I really like that it was made by autistic people because nothing is more annoying than getting talked at about autism by neurotypical people."
Cool.
And I can totally relate to that. I mean, we've got a lot of these posts that say the same or similar things. As there's a way that even though there's great intention, is that non-autistic people talking down or trying to explain to you what autism is, and not just what autism is, the identity or whatever you want to call it, but basically explaining you yourself, the way you feel, the way you are, and that does really grate with a lot of people. I think it certainly grates with me, and it's good that things like this can be shared, and that there's things out there that do not do that, especially the peer support, the understanding, and certainly sharing of experiences. What's other thoughts?
I think I might be in a rather remarkable situation that I don't think I've very often had the experience of neurotypical people explaining autism to me, because I've done so many kind of one-sided conversations myself explaining it that they haven't really been in the position to explain it to me. They've been shutting up and listening. So I can't say I really have the experience of the post.
I don't rail against every single instance of it, as long as it's just one element among several, as long as we are actually explaining it ourselves too, because there's a body of, well, murky body of facts to slightly shifting like a pudding, I suppose. A set of a knowledge set. The word facts is a bit too precise there. A knowledge set which exists, whether the folks passing some of it on are us or not, they've just got more knowledge if they are. It's only if you're getting that all the time that's a problem.
I agree with you, Maurice. From my point of view, I just think anybody discussing it or even proffering an opinion on it is a really good opportunity to expand it, talk about it, maybe even counter some of the things that people say. And I just see it as an opening dialogue. It doesn't piss me off. It kind of all the time gives me the opportunity to say stuff.
I've also never been really in a position where somebody has been lecturing me about what autism is, but I'm not sure that the sentiment of the post is really necessarily getting at that particular experience and context. It may be, but I think that the post also covers the general production and dissemination of information about autism as coming from professionals, and as a result of scientific research and observational studies and things like that, rather than from autistic people. So I'm seeing it as something I can relate to on that front, rather than relating to the unique experience of having been lectured to by a neurotypical person about what autism is, because I don't think that's ever happened to me either.
Yeah, I think that's a really elegant way of making it a valid concept by expanding it out in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I suppose I feel maybe I have experienced that sort of in the past. It's like with all good intentions, professionals, especially if you're newly diagnosed, maybe they're just trying to. Well, I don't know if they do it now. I can only go back to my own experience, which, you know, when I was getting involved with certain professionals in terms of autism and the autism professional specialist, was basically, over 20 years ago. In fact, it's 25 years ago. So you would hope the culture's changed since then, but at the time it was a bit kind of patronising language and people telling you who you are. But then again, at the time I was actually asking that question. But as time goes on, obviously things change and you get to know yourself better, and only you knows you. And what's good as well with sort of like peer support and being in different groups is sharing similar, not the same, but similar experiences, sometimes similar personalities, similar interests, similar kind of fears, etc., which kind of helps that along a little bit. So, yeah, we can get what Liz is meaning as well. It's just sometimes you just see something and it just gets you on a roll, and then you're going, yep, and someone else comes up with a view, and then it kind of, all right, I can remember that part as well.
I can think of how this links into something I'm thinking about at the moment. And that's a project that is actually going on that's aimed at the newly diagnosed, late diagnosed autistic person. And from what I know about the intention behind the project was that there's going to be 6 1-hour forums, consultations, lectures, each with a different piece of information about autism. And it says it's from a neurotypical standpoint, and there'll be a history of autism and various different items. And that's already started. That started in February. I think we had the option of going along to observe, or we were sent some links. Did anybody go along to the Autism Network's first trial of their model?
I never had it as a date flagged up. Searching back now.
It wasn't something on my radar. Saying I haven't been well in the last week or so, but no, it's not something I've looked at.
Well, I don't know how the land lies now, but I remember it being something that was a forwarded email that I forwarded out from Richard at the beginning. So I just wondered if anybody went, and obviously it didn't. I think Justin's put a calendar that you can link and download saying when Mother's Day is in the Canada and the United States of America on Podbean. So that's of interest to some people.
Right, moving on to the next post. The next post is about just sharing a new podcast, which is actually our last Facebook sharing podcast from last week, Sunday the 3rd of March. And the Facebook sharing and discussion contributions were from Chris Packham, Awesome Charlie, Autism Adventures Abroad, Little Puddings in Ireland, Diary of an Autistic Mom, Life in Autism World, and the Actually Autistic Coach. The podcast has a runtime of 45 minutes, and it was a very good discussion. And thanks, Julian, for putting that on this morning. The next post is from Square Peg. I've shared a few from Square Peg before, and it's just it's a community organisation, and it's a podcast for and by autistic women and non-binary adults. And what this podcast is called is Making the Invisible Visible, Getting Comfortable with a Late Diagnosis. And it's the guest for that episode, which is episode 8, is with Marissa Hamamoto, a leading voice in disability inclusion, professional dancer and founder of Infinite Flow, an award-winning dance company and non-profit that employs disabled and non-disabled dancers with a mission to create a more inclusive world, one dance at a time. Marissa is a stroke survivor and a proud fourth-generation Japanese American. She was diagnosed autistic in 2022, which she describes as being a mixture of relief and confusion. being a seasoned leader and ally in the physical disability space, then discovering she was autistic and working out what that actually means for her and her company. So just to say, in the conversation, they talked about why she set up an inclusive dance company, examining own ableism and internalized ableism, being a visible Asian American autistic, intersectional representation and stigma, her positivity around being autistic, her experience of lifelong social challenges and how she's found belonging and social connecting through dance, and physical and invisible disabilities, autism, and whether we identify as disabled. So it's a kind of podcast that's just quite recent. In fact, in the last day. So what's your thoughts?
Oh, there's loads of things I like about Square Peg. I like the concept behind it because it picks a group of people and it brings up some issues that are important and all relevant together as a group. It's kind of, and it's got a specialism in it. I think that's good in a podcast because what people want is things that are close to their own experience as much as possible to normalize some of their autism, especially in the late diagnosis. So that episode is really an important question that needs to be answered. And the general professionalism of Square Peg as a podcast is, to my mind, far above um, the podcast material that's out there. Even our own, it's a really professionally put together stuff. I think there's room for I think there's leeway in the amount of professionalism that's necessary around podcasts, and I think I like the kind of punk, rough and ready style as well. But I think it is nice when you see an example of an autistic podcast that is well put together and it's been going for a while and it's got a pedigree to it. That's something I really like about the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, well, well, for my sins, I haven't listened to the podcast from Square Peg, but what I've liked from sharing in the past is so many different things have been discussed and represented, and as much ground is tried to be covered as much as possible in terms of individuality and identity. And I love stuff like that, even though I haven't listened to it. But I like sharing that and making it more maybe widely available to some people that may not have seen it before, or and it's good that what I like is the descriptions they make as well. Is it's not too long. It kind of gives you an insight in who the guest is, who they are, and a bit of kind of mini biography, and then it kind of summarises the topics that they discussed. It's quite a way that they kind of they do the post itself is quite inspiring and something I aspire to in terms of how I promote the podcast that we do.
I wish they would allow me to tinker with their audio a bit, because I've learnt ways now to use different programs to make the kind of quality that you can get off mobile phones and people with headsets and people speaking to their own computers filtered enough to normalize it and get it within a soundness range that for somebody who is a bit odd in their auditory responses, as an autistic person, I can auditory responses gives me taste, gives me smells, gives me pictures. And if I get the right set of auditory responses, I can make myself high on church bells. So, and because I've got the need to have quite amplified sound, some of the hiss and stuff and the clicks and bumps in people's podcasts is difficult for me. So I really wish sometimes I could take their content and clean it up and give it back to them as a geek, but also as to make it easier on the ear.
Is it quite loud?
No, it's the there's a lot of harshness in the ranges of the high frequencies, particularly for somebody who gets possible pain from auditory signals. The voices aren't normalized with each other enough, so there's big volume differences throughout the program.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's quite a lot of echo and there's quite a lot of hiss, and there's quite a lot of over amplified crackle in there, from the bits I've heard.
Fair enough.
If you could make that into an app that you could listen to any audio file through, or any audio stream through, that would be amazing. I think we should Dragon's Den this. Make the app, we'll get investment, I'll do the talking. I will regret volunteering to do the talking pretty soon after we start, I'm sure. But I can see that being really, really useful.
I think actually it would be possible to make that happen in an app, because it's about audio streams being inputted and outputted through computers. So you would be able to input an audio at one end and have it come back filtered in a much easier on the ear way. It's almost like an extension of a graphic equalizer, but also with cleaning of the wavelengths and the reducing the extraneous highs and lows. You know how sometimes when you're listening to things seem completely too loud in comparison to each other. There are new algorithms that are sorted out to make fit the human hearing a lot better. And it's not always used by people doing their podcasts. It's not up to the quality that a real radio station will put into it. So I think bringing those as cheaply as they could be made now forward is a good idea. How about that for off topic?
Yeah. Something worth discussing. The next post is from Sue Larkey. Sue Larkey is an author, educator, author and advocate for autism spectrum disorder. Embrace difference to make a difference. SueLarkey.com.au, Australia. And what she shared is a picture of a smiling young girl. Understanding autism. A person or child with autism may not look at you all the time. This is because they can find looking and listening at the same time hard to do. I can relate to that. There's many a time where maybe because I was getting a row off a teacher or whatever, but kind of listening and trying to look at the same time was very, very hard. And it probably looked like I was looking right through them. But there's other examples of that though. I can relate to that in life.
Turn away and protect yourself. Give yourself some respite.
I'm a bit confused at the language choice. A person or child? Are children not people? I'm not really sure what the distinction is there, unless Sue intended to put an adult or child with autism, but then Sue's gone on to use person first language and then speak on our behalf. I really think this kind of advocacy, I think it's best coming from within the community. I know people are trying to do the right thing. I know that Sue's intention is not to not to cause a problem, but I really think it's nothing about us without us as a core sort of tenet. And I think really, you know, I don't know if this fits in equity and communication or not, but with, to kind of create content like that and post it out there and talk about they like this, they like that, they find this difficult, is like you're standing in my fucking spotlight, love. You know, we're quite capable of doing this advocacy. We're quite capable, and many people do create this content and put it out there, and we speak about us from our own experience and from a shared experience. I look at this and I feel like it's a bit of a step backwards in the broader picture of autism advocacy for a couple of reasons. I appreciate that people want to do the right thing and people are passionate about supporting autistic people, but I don't think this is a helpful way of going about it.
I'm really affected by what you're saying there. I think, yeah, I have a very negative emotional response to the way this is framed. I feel it's dehumanizing. I think it's based on classifying human beings according to their disabilities, when those disabilities are defined by a very poor set of criteria that are based on a world that doesn't fit autistic people. It doesn't sit well with me, and it doesn't feel as though it has the right intention behind it at all to me. I don't say, I don't think I can give this the benefit of doubt. I think this is really troubling to see it expressed in this way.
I can certainly understand. Kind of reading it over, and the description itself and who Sularki is, saying that they're an educator, author, and advocate for autism spectrum disorder, and then embracing a difference to make a difference. It seems probably not too that long ago, seeing that terminology, autism spectrum disorder, wouldn't have irked me as it does now, because it's put across as a disorder. It's even got love of heart beside it. It feels there's a good intention, but then looking back at the actual post itself as well, it's like a person or a child. I mean, looking at that now, it does look a bit strange saying person or child, and then describing somebody else. I can totally understand what people are saying here. Kind of reading it over, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I can see how it can really, concern people and annoy people as well. Even though, it has, from what I've shared from Sulaki before, it's got the greatest intention. It's been a while since I shared from Sulaki, actually, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a bit longer. And I recall, maybe wrongly, that previous posts shared were a bit more positive and less patronising than this one is.
I think she wants to be a good ally, and every community like ours needs allies, and I absolutely don't. I'm not pushing her away at all. But if you're going to be a good ally, you make space for the people in that community to tell their own story. You don't stand in front of them and tell it for them. So you learn from the community. You don't tell the community about themselves. You're not a mirror, you're a sponge. So yeah, I think it's hard to be a good ally. It's not an easy thing to do. And I think people often get carried away by wanting to do the right thing, and then end up in this kind of savior role where you actually end up getting in the way of the people you're trying to advocate for. It's not an easy kind of role to play at all. And I appreciate that she wants to play that role. Absolutely very welcome to do it, but definitely listen to the concerns of the community and the way that we can advocate for ourselves rather than trying to do it for us.
I think there are several of these groups that have now matured into a situation where they have almost become old-fashioned, and it's very difficult for them to accept the fullness of the neurodiversity paradigm. The need for autistic people to have autonomy and become their own teachers, advocates for each other. It's very difficult to hand over that power, that expectation, that regularity of your relationship with autistic people. To me, this looks like that kind of situation, that they're not ready as an organisation to cede things to autistic people.
The next post.
Sorry, Harry. I didn't think you. I bet you didn't think it was going to get this political tonight, did you? When you were choosing this stuff?
Well, no, but what I do know is that quotes that are shared can, it can provide, there's always going to be a response to it one way or another, and it's always going to create a reaction and, people's views, but you never really know. I didn't expect this. No, I didn't expect this at all when sharing it. Although I can totally relate to what people are saying now while we're doing it. But that's what's great about it.
I want to say a quick hi, Liz. I'm really, really loving the fire in your belly out there, and the stuff you're saying, and the way you're saying them. I'm really loving it.
Thank you. I did not expect. I didn't expect to get very passionate about anything today because I've been having a bit of a meh sort of CBA day. So it's kind of taken me by surprise a bit. Um, but then,
Right, let's go for
yeah,
it. Let's
it's
see
good
what is put
though.
up there next. Come on, this is
No, it's good.
cathartic.
It's good though because sometimes, you know, resting's all good and that, but sometimes you just like, I don't know. Sometimes I really like something inflaming some emotion in me. It's good. It's good if I've had a bit of a kind of bland, disconnected day. Um, and our conversations are always useful. I think for people listening, um, I think we cover some really interesting topics and aspects that may not appear to be connected at all to the post, but that's where our conversations go, and we talk about all sorts of stuff. Um, it's good. It's good.
Now on to the next post. The next post is from autistic author Torrin Cairns, who also do a podcast, Children and Parenting Education. We provided neurodiverse or neurodivergent friendly strategies for autism parents, professionals, and individuals. autismforhome.com / shifting the narrative. And what they're sharing is a podcast, and it's called Shifting the Narrative of Everything Autism, episode 78, Autism in Third World Countries. And on this episode, Stacey discusses her recent trip to Guatemala to help rural families with their autistic children. What did she learn? What different challenges do these families face? And what can be done to help these people? Link in bio. So, another podcast. And it's something that comes out every now and again in terms of autism globally and how things will be different in different cultures, in different countries. And this will be relating to that, particularly Guatemala itself.
I want to get straight into the podcast sound quality again. It's a video podcast essentially because it started more of a YouTube thing. So obviously I'm going to have a beef with the sound quality because it's a very compressed MP3 and it's not very well modulated and it's very harsh to listen to if you have to have it on high volume. And it could easily be solved technically. So that's a disappointment for me. And the other thing is because it's video, it could be an awful lot shorter. If it was it would be lovely to have an audio version of it that was a lot more edited down. Video doesn't edit down very much if you cut a lot out, whereas audio you can really cut sentences out and without losing anybody's intonation and you can shorten it. So I think despite all the confidence, because it's a really good, well-established podcast, and technically I wish I could give it a tweak.
Do you find the video is distracting without being too obviously critical of the production?
Well, look, I don't listen. I don't watch the video generally when something turns out to be a video podcast, because I do find it distracting. But it's because of the way it's recorded for video, the audio is made into a very high compression MP3 right at the beginning, which means that you don't get the opportunity to improve the audio in the way if it was recorded in a lossless format like a wave. Um, it's like it's like a very blurry photograph right from the beginning. So the material, when you're trying to improve the audio, has a lot of the information already lost. It's been compressed so much into a smaller file, and tweaks like that. And then an audio. If you cut a video like you cut an audio, it would look jerky. It would be distracting because people's lips would be in different places, whereas you can't see any of that when you're doing an audio. So you could make an audio very to the point and very well compressed and edited, so you take the same information in a lot shorter time than video.
Fair enough, I can understand that. I hadn't watched it myself. I mean, I share a lot and I don't tend to. Sometimes I read, but I don't actually go into it. But I do find the topic itself quite interesting in terms of autism elsewhere, like the autism globally, autism in third world country, and somewhere that you wouldn't necessarily think about, Guatemala. Because there's that many countries in the world, of course. It's just like, I mean, it must be a very interesting discussion. It's just a shame that that if the sound, because we're sensitive, or some of us are very sensitive, it's like one something it's just a bit off or a bit does isn't quite right. That can kind of ruin it for some people, which is a shame.
I've got nothing but compliments to say about the fact that they've been running a podcast for 73 episodes or more, and it's another professional setup. Um, it's something to be admired.
It does fascinate me though. The people that do podcasts and do it while being seen. Um, I mean, how comfortable? I mean, if you weren't comfortable, I suppose you wouldn't do it. But I just think sometimes that kind of takes it away. But it all depends on personal experience, of course.
Well, I think I am very much about the audio. I want the experience of a voice or a group of voices coming from a slightly different angle through my headphones, talking to me about a subject when somebody has taken out all the hiss and shortened or done all the editing that we do. That's how I actually like to take it. I don't like to watch YouTube videos. I find the video distracting, and I would much prefer the audio experience. And I can take the audio experience in headphones anywhere. Um, that's the format I want my information in. That's why I'm interested in podcasting and radio. The video bit is not something I want.
I've added this tab to I've got a browser window with neurodivergent content I'm reading and podcasts to listen to. So I've added this tab into that browser window. But I won't be watching the video when I watch it either. I shall be doing the ironing probably, or doing a bit of sewing or something. I have to take information in, like in an oral format, so like out loud listening. I have to be doing something else, because I have to have two things. I have to be doing a productive thing so that that part of my brain is happy, otherwise it takes over. And then the listening, processing part of my brain can do its job without interference from the rest of my brain. I find watching a video on something really difficult to do. I find myself getting bored and wanting to skip forward, and I find my attention wandering, even though I'm using, I'm dual processing. I'm processing visually and orally. It just doesn't work with my attention style. That said, I'm really looking forward to the topics. I think it's a very interesting one, and one that I don't know a lot about, but I'm certainly interested in it from the point of view of diagnosis, access to diagnosis, and also the cultural differences in how autism is seen and experienced in other parts of the world. Because there's a lot of things, there are things in the that are in the diagnostic manuals. There are things that are considered to be core autistic traits that are at odds with our culture, but that are completely normal and completely expected in other cultures. And I find it interesting how autism is perceived when some of those core traits are actually shared culturally by everyone, and then not things that mark you out as an outlier.
Well, I'm for the two main ways you've attacked this subject. I completely agree with you there, Liz. The fact it's, even if it was a video, it would be an auditory experience for me, which means that I don't want the video to be made. I want them to only concentrate on the audio, because that's how I'm going to receive it. I'm not going to watch their faces. And the same thing about needing to be doing something else almost as a stim, or whether it be a physical exercise like walking, or yes, doing something else that sort of takes up your body or brain in another way is absolutely necessary. That's why I want audio. And the subject will, yes, and exactly what you're saying about different cultures seeing autism as different things, and how actually there's some positive images and positive messages from different cultures about autism that I think we don't yet know about, that have not yet become mainstream enough, and I'm interested in them.
It's kind of weird, kind of discussing this, because slightly off topic, I have actually watched a YouTube video version of a radio show, basically talking about football, and I don't actually feel it's too distracting. It's quite stimulating in a way, I suppose. You can sort of see people talking. I thought that would actually be a distraction. So maybe the video version, from my personal experience, may be a bit different, and maybe it's worthwhile looking into. I'm kind of thinking out loud here. It's just giving another perspective, as it might not be as much a distraction as I may fear it may be, because I do it already with other things.
I wonder if for some folks it's actually reinforcement, plus also synesthesic way, or just an extra. That they may sort of be used to a visual extra in the way they follow speech. There's certainly no harm in having that for them.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. In fact, it's said by people when they want to make audio with us that it's at least been said by one autistic person who said that they use visual cues to know when to speak or something like that. So I know that it doesn't suit all autistic people, but I think it does a hell of a lot of leveling the playing field when we're talking in interviews with the autism professionals, to have a much leveler playing field in that way. If we were on video, I don't think we'd be able, so the audio thing is important to me in different ways, perhaps.
The next post is from Life of an Autistic Mum. Not to confuse of Life of an Autistic Mom that I shared last week. I'm just going to realise it's two different things because they're similarly named. Life of an Autistic Mum is a non-profit organisation. Welcome to our secret world of autism. Here we educate and spread autism awareness, love and light. And the name is Jilde Sadiq. Just to differentiate from the other one I was speaking about, and what they've shared throughout the last couple of days is it was International Women's Day, and what they're saying is this is International Women's Day. I want to celebrate every special needs mother, every woman who is doing the hardest job in the world each day. Every woman who has had to give up work or cut down their hours to look after their most amazing child in the world. Every woman who is fighting for their child's needs. You are a true inspiration, and your love shines brightly, guiding your family through every day with hope and resilience. Today I want you to know that you are not alone, and I want to celebrate you and the wonderful mother that you are. I pray that the future of all women only becomes brighter. Hopefully, women will continue to embrace differences and support one another. Happy International Women's Day, sisters. I just thought it was there was a lot of different posts on International Women's Day, and I just thought I didn't particularly. It's just that particular one I just seen first, and I thought I would share it to to share that particular occasion and to share that particular experience and someone kind of basically giving out their support to other people. What's your thoughts?
Well, those who are fighting for their child's needs is a really important bit that perhaps filters it down a bit. The rightly disposed mothers as opposed to wanting their child's needs not to be what they are and to conform them. Mothers with broad social attitudes or who have learned to become broader through their engagement with this. Wish it was all of them.
Suppose in a way it ties in, certainly in the UK. I mean, the post is actually from Texas, United States, so it doesn't tie in with their version of Mother's Day, but it ties in with ours. The International Women's Day, and then the Mother's Day here. It's just it's amazing how these things kind of tie in. Because this is an actual flow. This is all right. It's been chosen at the time, but it's just weird how things do, come together in terms of the way things are shared on the Facebook. I kind of think we say it all the time actually. The natural flow of how things link in, where the posts link in with each other, even though it's all different perspectives and experiences. The next post, which will probably be the last one, is from Love for Autism, which is a personal blog, and it's described as helping my autistic son, Justin, and families with inspiration and resources to support our community. And they've shared a post, and it says, I predict by the year 2050, autistic people will be running large companies, designing cars, building rockets, inventing high-tech machinery, solving improbable mathematical equations, writing bestsellers and more. Wait, they already are. And that's from Joy of Autism, the quote, and it's Love for Autism that's shared it. And it says, right, that last part, there's a level of genius within the autism community, there's no doubt about that. What's your thought about how that's been put across? Genius.
I think it's the kind of script flipping, perspective flipping thing's quite a powerful rhetorical tool, and he's managed to do it quite effectively in a short post. So it's not asking too much of people to read a long thing or to hold concepts in their head. It's good because you're like, when you read it, you're going, but we're already doing this, and then you haven't quite got time to get annoyed before he goes, wait, they already are. And I know here again there is a they already are, but this is this is using that from a different angle. Yeah, I think it's a clever little pithy little thing. And yeah, there's absolutely a level of genius in the autism community. It's often like it's always touted as like a really positive thing about autism, and people can be really clever. There's two sides to everything, as we know, and I know that some people get a bit annoyed that people. It's this kind of this superpower narrative. It's similar to that. This kind of, oh well, every autistic person has got a superpower. It's like no, we don't all have a superpower. Some of us are completely like average in things, or maybe we haven't found the thing that we're exceptionally good at. But we shouldn't need to be exceptionally good at something to be valid as an autistic person. We shouldn't need to have an area of genius or a superpower to be valid as an autistic person. That's kind of a big debate to get into right at the end. But I just wanted to put it out there that the kind of the genius narrative has got another side to it, along the same vein as the kind of autism as a superpower narrative. It can sometimes feel like there is a pressure to be the right kind of autistic, in inverted commas, to be a particular acceptable kind of autistic, and that I know this is well intentioned, kind of like the post is well intentioned, but I know that some people can find that side of the narrative pressurizing, like a further pressure to fit in. Having said that, like I really like the post. I think it's very clever in the way it sort of makes you think. And like I just like the purple background as well. Like on an aesthetic level, I appreciate that colour.
Yeah, I think there is a sense in which it is a bit of a pressurize of a standard to conform to, but there is something else in there, and that's the fact that it needs to be recognised that autistic people are already doing a lot of other things as well. They're in our communities. They might be somebody's in a role in your office. There might be somebody who's on your staff. We are embedded in the community. We're not defined by people who have ended up marginalized. We are also embedded in the community, and we are joined to the marginalized people. We are all autistic, though some of us are already embedded out there in positions of authority sometimes, and positions of specialism or expertise, or particularly fit a niche from all different kinds of autistic people. I think there's that in it, and I like that part of it.
Yeah, that's a real. I like the way you brought that aspect out. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it is that reminder that we're doing this. We are. You probably know autistic people doing all this kind of stuff. That it just reminds me of that autism awareness meme. And while I like the idea of moving towards autism acceptance rather than just this awareness, I still want to be able to use it's Autism Awareness Week. We could be anywhere. Look behind you meme. I just love that meme so much that I want to keep using it. And yeah, just that sentiment, isn't it?
Well, thank you very much. That was a great discussion tonight, as always. Um, so, this is Spectrum Voices conversation here every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States. So thanks everyone once again, and I look forward to doing this again next time. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
There was no loading thing appeared.